Good morning, everyone. Welcome. This is the April 14th edition, 2018 of the From the Bench podcast. I'm your host, Mark Janish. We're going to go over some things today regarding the NBA playoffs. They start in just a few hours here, 12 p.m. Pacific time. The Warriors and the San Antonio Spurs. That's the number 2 seed versus the number 7 seed. This is probably the most intriguing matchup of the Western Conference first round. I think that the key for the Warriors is going to be the performance of Kevin Durant, or the non-performance of Kevin Durant, minus Steph Curry. The Warriors will have a difficult time with the number 7 Spurs, and obviously with Greg Popovich, who I believe is probably the best coach in the NBA right now, just consistency-wise, since over the last 18 seasons. He's a great coach. He knows how to work with his players despite their becoming long in the tooth or aging, as the case may be, especially with the Manu Ginobili's of the world. Minus Kawhi Leonard, I do believe that the Warriors prevail in this series. I do believe it'll be 6 games for the Warriors, and they will survive, but that does not mean they will get past the front-running Houston Rockets. The 1 versus the 8 seed in the West, that would be the Houston Rockets and the Minnesota Timberwolves. I'd like to say, that Minnesota, as I predicted at the beginning of the season, would be in would be in the playoffs. They actually did make the playoffs, but just barely with a win over the Denver Nuggets last week. 1 versus 8, like Karl Anthony Towns. A little concerned about Andrew Wiggins and his free throw shooting. That's going to be a key to this series, along with Jimmy Butler, a very healthy Jimmy Butler playing in this series. I do believe the Timberwolves will win 2 games. I do believe that the Rockets advance in 6 on the 1-8 matchup. 3 and 6, that's your New Orleans Pelicans and Anthony Davis versus the guard-heavy Portland Trailblazers with Damian Lillard out of Oakland, California, and, of course, C.J. McCollum. Now, over the last 20 years, we do see that the game has changed just a little bit in the sense that it's very, very above the circle, very guard-heavy. There isn't really any strong centers. You do have your stretch fours like an Anthony Davis. I do consider him a very long stretch four and not necessarily a center, but he can play in the middle. Not sure that he's the great rebounder that some other centers like a Joel Embiid, who will not be in Miami, playing Miami, the 3 versus the 6 seed for Philadelphia, which we'll get to in just a few moments. I do see that the Blazers, they do have home court. I do believe that the Blazers will prevail in round 1. It will take 7 games, so that's my pick with the 3 and the 6 seed. The 4 and the 5, that's going to be the Oklahoma City Thunder playing, and I do feel strongly that the Thunder will prevail. Russell Westbrook, at this point, has prevailed, fortunately, for his second season in the NBA, getting a triple-double. Let me go ahead and bring up some more information here in just a moment. You're welcome to go to accessmediaglobal.com. That's the parent site that's connected to this podcast program that you can hear on Stitcher Radio and Libsyn. So you're welcome to download those. I want to thank those of you listening across the United States and around the world: China, Peru, the Netherlands, Thailand, the United Kingdom, and the Ukraine, among others, that have checked in as far as the listenership goes. Wanted to share with you some programming information If you're not familiar with accessmediaglobal.com, we started that 7 years ago. One-page Google blog. Now I have a 16-page website, including international soccer, international headlines, international page, some NBA basketball, some NCAA news, some NFL football, even though it's not NFL season right now in the United States. We do have the MLB page. That's the Major League page and the Minor League page. We also have, for programming purposes, Buster Olney's weekly podcast. I'll be posting that later today. We also have some MLS Extra Time podcasts. Zlatan Ibrahimovic, came in the 70th minute last week for LAFC. He made his debut. It was beautiful. LAFC did make some mistakes, but the Galaxy overcame a 3-goal deficit to win. Under the fold on the top of the page, under NBA basketball, the NBA playoff schedule for 2018 has been presented. I'm going to go ahead and just let you know that that's posted there. The first couple of rounds are there. Turner Network Television, the ABC Broadcast Network, and ESPN will be covering games for the Western and Eastern Conference. Check your local listings, I guess you'd say, regarding that. The 4 and the 5 seed will be the Jazz and the Thunder. Was wanting to get to that. Donovan Mitchell, the rookie of the year. Not that Ben Simmons has not had a great year. I believe he's going to be a great player. I just believe, based on the fact that Gordon Hayward migrated to the Boston Celtics and left Utah for Boston, a great performance by former Mercer Island, Washington guard, former Missouri coach and current Utah coach Quinn Snyder. Quinn Snyder, out of Mercer Island High School in the state of Washington, in a bygone era, has rehabilitated himself. I want to just give a shout out to his mom, Tonette, and just a very impressive job. 48-34 was the Jazz record. Jazz 4 versus 5. I do believe that Russell Westbrook, with the help of Carmelo Anthony and Paul George, who I believe will have a better playoffs than they have regular season, even though, here's one for you, the usage rate, time on the court, participating, has gone down from a high last year for Russell Westbrook of 41% down to 33%. But I do believe that the scoring averages for both Paul George and Carmelo Anthony do need to increase, or we might see a Utah surprise. I don't believe Utah has enough players with a talent of a Carmelo Anthony, of course, or a Russell Westbrook, or a Paul George, for that matter, to overcome. So I do believe the 4 and the 5 matchup will go to the OKC Thunder in 6 games. So 6 games for the Thunder, 6 games for the Blazers, 7 games for the Houston Rockets at that particular point. And we will see what happens with these matchups as they go forward, but a very intriguing Western Conference. Once again, the winners coming out will be the Rockets, the Golden State Warriors, the Oklahoma City Thunder, and the Portland Trailblazers, the number 3 versus the number 6 seed. In the East, the Cavaliers, we can start there, starting as the number 4 seed. Now, the interesting thing is they made all their roster changes, bringing in Larry Nance Jr., among others, to the Cavaliers to try to rehabilitate the Cavaliers' chances. Now, they only had 30 games to play We're not sure about the health of Kevin Love, but he will be a factor if healthy as far as that goes. And, of course, we would be looking for Tristan Thompson to rebound and play his role. Also, a good thing that we could see, and we probably need to see if we're Cleveland fans, which I don't despise Cleveland. I just think that there's a little bit too much focus on the Cavaliers making another title run, which they very well could do out of a very weakened Eastern Conference. But I do believe that Oladipo is going to win a couple of games for the Pacers. I do believe the first game is the key because most of these guys, like the Jordan Clarksons, the Larry Nances of the world, have not played Rodney Hood, another acquisition in Cleveland this year, have not played consistently in the playoffs as far as they don't know how to play together. So I believe game one will be critical. I do believe the Cavaliers will win this game win this series in 6 games. So the Cavaliers over the Pacers 4-5 in 6 games. The Toronto Raptors under Dwayne Casey. This team is exciting to watch, although they haven't really proven, even though they made the Eastern Conference Finals last year, that they can win in crunch time. I am concerned about the shooting of Kyle Lowry and, of course, DeMar DeRozan. I'm not sure that Toronto will once again be able to play to the degree that they need to. They need to make their shots and have a sense of urgency, which I don't believe they've had in the last couple of years, even despite the fact that Dwayne Casey has led them to playoffs success. Now, the Washington Wizards, on the other hand, they've been a bit of a streaky team. John Wall, he needs to decide what he's going to do with that huge contract, huge offer to remain in Washington. Bradley Beal, there's something about that mix, chemistry, personalities between Bradley Beal and John Wall himself. Something just seems to be wrong there. It's like it's not a bad pairing. It just seems like they don't get along, but they need to put their differences aside if the Wizards are to scratch in this series. I do believe the Wizards are going to lose this series. It'll probably be Raptors in 5, 4-1 win for the Eastern Conference leading number 1 seed Raptors. 2-7. Giannis Antetokounmpo and Chris Middleton, among others, for Milwaukee, playing the number 2 Boston Celtics. Minus Kyrie Irving. This is going to be a good series. I do believe the Celtics win a couple of games, but I do believe this could be an upset. So I'm going to actually give the Milwaukee Bucks 6 games to defeat the Boston Celtics. I don't believe the Celtics will be able to play up to their standard minus Kyrie Irving, although I do respect and love Brad Stevens as coach of the Celtics. Number 7 over number 2 in an upset, Milwaukee over the Celtics in 6 games. The Philadelphia 76ers and the Miami Heat. Dwayne Wade and Hassan Whiteside are the only hopes for the Miami Heat. I think Goran Dragic is in a Miami uniform, last I saw these days. He could also play a factor if he hits his shots. 3 versus number 6. Now, Philadelphia is on a 16-game winning streak. They haven't been this good since 2001 is the closest that I can remember, when Allen Iverson led the Larry Brown coached Philadelphia 76ers to the title. It's all about trusting the process, according to former owner Leonard Katz. But as far as Joel Embiid, orbital fracture, he's not necessarily going to play. If he does, it's going to be with a mask on to protect that orbital fracture. This is going to be an intriguing series, 3 versus number 6. Hassan Whiteside and the leadership of Dwayne Wade should give the Miami Heat a couple of games, but I do definitely believe the young up-and-coming Philadelphia 76ers are going to win that series. And for those of you that are getting somewhat excited about the potential of the Philadelphia 76ers, some of the Philadelphia teams, including Villanova in the NCAA tournament, and of course the Philadelphia Eagles winning the Super Bowl. Those of you that are thinking like Philly's on a run, they actually are on a mini run as far as championships, and Philly is getting the respect that they have longed for and haven't had in quite some time that way. But the issue for Philadelphia is they're a young team. And the wild card for the Philadelphia 76ers is going to be first-round pick out of the University of Washington, Markelle Fultz, who had 13 points, 10 rebounds, and 10 assists a couple of games ago. Good to see him back on the court. And hopefully some of the frustrations, some of the mental, psychological issues with Markelle Fultz and his jump shot are starting to cease, and he's starting to get his sea legs, so to speak, as the first-round pick. Not to say Markelle Fultz was a bust, but he was injured with some nerve and shoulder problems for quite some time this year. But the Philadelphia 76ers are very deep with a very, very long stretch for Ben Simmons and, of course, Joel Embiid. If he can produce maybe a game or two with about 12 points, 12 rebounds, and maybe 4 or 5 blocks, that's going to change things in the middle for the Philadelphia 76ers. But I do have the Sixers advancing in 6 games in this round for in the Eastern Conference. So I believe I've covered the Eastern and the Western Conference for you. Once again, you can go to the NBA page. I have all the listings for the first round of the playoffs. Please check your ABC stations in the United States, Turner Network Television, and of course the Entertainment and Sports Programming Network will have all those things. And also, if you have NBA TV, there are a few games on NBA TV, which is essentially similar to the NFL Network. I do have some streaming opportunities as well. At the bottom of this post was up yesterday. You can go to accessmediaglobal.com, get all that information. I'm not going to belabor it here for you right now. I wanted to also go to my Major League and Minor League Baseball page. Well, the situation is such that I'm posting highlights, MLB recaps and highlights pretty much every day. I haven't posted today's recap of yesterday's action. Buster Olney's baseball podcast will be up today, and so will last night's highlights. Among those, the Seattle Mariners came home to face the Oakland A's in Seattle. Mitch Haniger with a 3-run home run, and Dan Vogelbach, first baseman for the Mariners, hit his first home run in his career at Safeco Field. 7-4, Oakland losing to Seattle yesterday. Also, the Shohei Ohtani experiment, the Shohei Ohtani debut, I wouldn't say it's bizarre, but at the same time, this guy, I had my doubts. When you talk about Babe Ruth in the same sentence as Shohei Ohtani, which is happening in Southern California, I had my doubts, I have to say. But Shohei Ohtani had 2 hits yesterday, 2 for 4. He has 3 home runs. He has about 8 RBIs. He came into the week hitting 364. All right. So Ohtani fever is striking some folks here in Southern California. I will say this, being a Dodger fan, and we'll address the Dodgers in a minute, being a devoted Dodger fan, the only time I tune into Angel games is when they play the Mariners, because I do support and follow the Mariners pretty closely as far as fandom goes. But the thing is that Shohei Ohtani is must-see television because he can pitch and he can hit. Like I said, last night he had 2 hits and 4 at-bats. And then, of course, all those home runs. He has 3 of them so far. Came into this week hitting .364, doing quite well. He's going to be on the mound tomorrow, 11:15 Pacific time. Shohei Ohtani and the Kansas City Royals are going to tangle. Shohei Ohtani has an arm. He has a gun. On the speed gun, he's in the high 90s. He pitched a great game, 6 1/3 innings last Sunday in Anaheim of no-hit ball. And he had 12 strikeouts, and he threw about 93. I think he threw about 93 pitches, if I remember correctly. So you're welcome to go to the Major League Baseball page. You'll see all the recaps, Buster Only podcast for the week. This week's are not up necessarily. You have some Major League Baseball feed information regarding the D-backs and all kinds of MLB news. You have the recap of the Mariners and the A's, and you also have some information regarding the D-backs and the Dodgers. The Dodgers are about 4-7 right now. The D-backs beat them 8-7. The Dodgers just continue to try to come back, but they are in a world of hurt, and I'm not sure it's the pitching. I'm disappointed in the fact that Jock Peterson came to bat yesterday in the 8th inning. He got an opportunity. He is 3 for 21, hitting .143, and not to belabor this point, but, Andrew Toles is waiting in Oklahoma City, and the Dodgers might want to take a look at Andrew Toles when he continues to progress, get his ABs in, and things of this nature. You can also go to the NPB and the Korean Baseball organization, along with the Baseball Tonight podcast with Buster Only. You have MLB.com, Gammon's Daily. I'm posting the MLB Fastcast, a little 4-minute video clip of every Major League game on a daily basis. We'll be posting that later today. But that's baseball for you. Now, on the minor league side, just to kind of let you know, the minor league baseball page, I'm posting stuff on the baseball page regarding, it's under the on-air tab. It's the weekly games for the Oklahoma City Dodgers, the Salt Lake Bees parent club, AAA parent club for the Anaheim Angels, the Tacoma Rainiers parent club of the Seattle Mariners, and of course, the El Paso Chihuahuas, the San Diego Padres AAA farm team. What I'm doing in that case is posting weekly games with Pacific time start times available for you. What I do need to let you know, and I discovered this last week, if perhaps your team is not broadcast on the MILB, Minor League Baseball links as far as the multimedia audio, you're going to want to go to the alternate team. So let's just say that the Tacoma Rainiers were playing the Salt Lake Bees, and you actually went to the Tacoma Rainiers site to listen to the game, which you can do with the links I provided. But let's say the Tacoma Rainiers feed is not available at that time, then you would migrate over to the Salt Lake Bees site. I have games up till the 16th of the month here, and I've changed those weekly under the on-air tab. So that's your minor league baseball feed. I'm going to get into some more minor league baseball stuff here probably next week. We're going to go over some standings. We're going to go over some pitching and some hitting and things of this nature. This is the first time that I've actually posted the daily audio for the PCL, 115 seasons of Pacific Coast League Baseball. Very, very much invested in baseball. I want to bring that to you as well. So that should go ahead and wrap up the baseball side of this thing. We will also address the playoffs for the NHL games that I'm watching. The Philadelphia Flyers and the Pittsburgh Penguins, 7-0 win for Sidney Crosby. Had a hat trick, 7-0 win in Game 1. Game 2, the Flyers came back and won 5-1. And then, of course, last night's interesting games. The Las Vegas Knights, the darlings of the NHL Western Conference, beat the Los Angeles Kings 2-1, 15-23 of the second overtime. Both clubs were very, very tired, and the Kings made a mistake with Haula, H-A-U-L-A, scoring a goal. Jonathan Quick had 54 saves, and Fleury for Vegas had 29 saves, but Jonathan Quick was severely busy. So we'll be looking into some NHL stuff. Not very much of an NHL aficionado. Not one of my stronger informational areas that I'm good at. But we will be looking at some NHL and as the move toward Lord Stanley's Cup progresses. We're looking forward to that. So for right now, that's pretty much it for this edition of the From the Bench podcast. I'm Mark Janish from the bench in Southern California. Enjoy the games, everyone, and we'll be back just to look and analyze and take a look at the NBA playoffs, the NHL playoffs, some minor league stuff. And otherwise, you're welcome to listen to this and every other podcast at accessmediaglobal.com and Libsyn and Stitcher Radio. I'm your host, Mark Janish, wishing you a very pleasant, good sports weekend for April 14th, 2018. I'm Mark Janish, wishing you a very, very pleasant, good weekend. And we'll talk to you next week, Monday or Tuesday, on the next edition of the From the Bench podcast. Until next time, until next week, I'm Mark Janish, wishing you a very, very pleasant, good day.